Welcome to another writing vlog where I try to do all the things that I've been avoiding for several weeks. So I've been working on a novella called Changing States since July of 2023, which is kind of crazy. I really seriously started drafting it consistently in August, and we're coming upon the end of it. And I haven't worked on it since November of 2023. And I was only consistently working on it like within like the first week. It has been some time, and I've sort of come to a bit of an unexpected end with Changing States. It's not that it's over because I still have the end to write. It just feels sort of done in my mind. I was talking about this on one of my writing live streams where projects almost feel like they have like an emotional arc for me, and I feel like my emotional arc with Changing States ended in October of 2023. So almost a year ago, I started writing a novella called Body Back, and it really changed a lot of things for me in terms of my writing process and also the trajectory of what I would write for the rest of 2023. That included a second novella in what I would eventually learn would be a trilogy of novellas called Hallowed Bodies, and that leads us to Changing States, which is the final in this little trilogy. That might actually expand. I might write more novellas. I definitely have plans for a couple. So Body Back followed a character named Harrison, who actually was in a relationship with the narrator of Changing States, whose name is Jeremiah, and their relationship ended pretty badly at the end of Body Back. Hallowed Bodies followed Harrison's ex-boyfriend, and of course, Changing States then picks up on Jeremiah's story as he tries to move past this breakup with Harrison that's devastated him, and in order to do that, he ends up taking a trip back from Las Vegas, the city that he lives in, to Baltimore and Maryland, where his family lives. But before he arrives in Baltimore, one of his family members dies. So this has been a really important project for me. It feels crazy that it's spanned such a long period of time. I don't even want to count the months because I know it's just gonna make me feel like more upset to see how long it's taken me to write. It's very silly, and that's why I don't really want to think about it that much. I'm just trying to think of it as, you know, I've had this beautiful project with me for several months, like a nice chapter of my life. And this project that has just been lovely to write pretty much from start to finish. I don't want to give it up so fast. And so I took a break from writing it in November as I shifted into writing my contemporary fantasy novels on this ground. After November, I took a break like pretty much completely from writing in December. I was writing odds and ends on my phone, but I wasn't writing any of my main projects. Now I'm past the halfway point in January, and I think I'm feeling pretty good about working towards finishing it. There really isn't much left to write. I honestly thought there would be a little bit more of Changing States, like back in November when I'd sort of unofficially stopped writing it to shift into Sunless Ground. I thought that we might have like 4,000 more words, but honestly, as I'm writing the ending here, I don't think we have even a couple more scenes left. I think it's just gonna be maybe 1,000 more words and we're gonna be good. In a sprint, I think last week, I ended up writing this entire page worth of stuff, and just a second ago, I also spent more time writing a little bit more, almost an entire page by hand. Honestly, I have been like anxious about getting back into this project. I don't know why. Maybe because like I don't want it to end, and also I don't really like writing endings, and also like it's been a while since I last wrote it, so I feel like I'm rusty. But anyways, writing by hand sort of helps with that, and the minute I started, I was like, yeah, I remember exactly how to write in Jeremiah's head. Like, he's impossible to forget. He's like the best narrator in the entire world. So this project just means a lot to me because it has been a bit of a stake in a change in my writing process and sort of what I write about, and also pushing me to get more comfortable writing outside of my comfort zone. I feel like I just started this project that has taught me so much, but also like looking back from like where I started with writing it versus where I am, like I have changed a lot as a writer and developed a lot in terms of what I like to write and how I want to approach my writing. So what I'm going to do right now, I am getting kind of tired of writing by hand. I've barely written by hand and I'm already getting tired of it. So I'm going to transcribe what I just wrote into my computer, and then let's see like how far I can take the drafting session. I'm not trying to take the ending of Changing States that seriously because I already know what it is in my head. And also, I feel like it is already kind of over. I don't feel like I need the project to like owe me the satisfying like resolution or whatever. I've already had so many satisfying moments drafting this book, and I mentioned this in my live that one of the scenes that actually ended one of the parts in this novella, because it doesn't actually have chapters, it's just in parts. I think the end of part 3 felt like the end of the book to me, and that was like the satisfying moment that I needed to feel. Typically, I would feel like, oh, well, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't feel like I have a resolution to a project when it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, we're getting to the momentous end. That's how I felt finishing Hallowed Bodies, which I finished at the end of August of 2023. But with this project, I don't really care. I'm like, okay, like if it kind of ends anticlimactically, it doesn't really matter because like the book is so precious to me no matter what. So I'm just excited to sort of like tie a bow on it. I don't want to keep associating it like with sort of like anxiety writing. So I'm just excited to like give it the time it needs and then give it a little bit of a send-off. It's gonna be really beautiful and also really sad, so I'm not gonna think about it that much because I will cry. So this is not gonna be a surprise, but of course I find things really difficult to end, especially when it comes to writing projects that are special interests. I am autistic, and I have always, even before I knew that I was autistic, taken a very like autistic approach to my writing process, which I'm very grateful for in terms of like my younger self for paving the way for me now in my 20s to sort of reap the benefits of all the hard work that I've done sort of cultivating this series of mine that's been a huge special interest. I will link a video explaining the entire series if you want like the lowdown of all the characters in the drama, because I literally spoil all the plots because I'm not publishing these books. But I think ending a project that was a special interest that I think of really fondly, that was also a marker of a time in my life, is really sad. And I don't know if we talk about like the grief that comes with finishing something and how it can be hard to move past a project even when you're like really excited to be finished with it. I'm not actually really excited to be finished Changing States because Jeremiah as a character isn't somebody that I have that many ideas for, like in terms of his stories. His story's really linked to one of the central characters I've been writing with for forever, a celebrity on this channel, Harrison. And so because his story with Harrison is so small at the end of the day, even though it's like a really big part of his life at the time, it really only spans about a month. And because of that, I don't have that many ideas independent of Harrison for him. Hopefully that changes. I would love to write more Jeremiah where I don't have to worry about Harrison being a menace. However, I do feel really sad moving on from him because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna write anything else with you, which is upsetting. At the same time, I do want to shift my sort of focus this year. Since we're in the new year, I want to work on my short story collection a little bit more. I'm also trying to move away from writing my special interest projects with such like an intensity. I wasn't working because I was working out like health problems from after I graduated, and because of that I wanted to create a bit of a routine with my writing, which is good. So I had a really, really staunch routine no matter what with both Body Back, Hallowed Bodies, and Changing States. And that was fun because like I had a lot of time and I'm really grateful for all the time that I had. But also I want to kind of move away from that because I don't think it's like serving my process anymore with my special interest projects. I think discipline, of course, is very important. I think discipline is an important part of writing. I don't know if it's critical to like be a writer to have like a very disciplined approach. I think to an extent, if like that's your goal to like be published and have a career or whatever, you kind of have to have discipline, or at least like, you know, follow through. But I don't even really like the idea of like writers have to be disciplined. If not, you're gonna suck. I think it could just cause more stress than, you know, it needs to in a creative pursuit. Not that writing is always going to be rainbows and flowers every single time you write, but that I don't think that you should like be miserable or be like writing is a job at the end of the day. And you know, like it's also creative, like it's fine, like we can calm down with that. I do agree to an extent, but I like to take a gentler approach with my writing. And so I think it's just kind of time to move past the, you know, I wake up and like I'm going like 100% on these like special interest literary projects. Perhaps that approach will work for me in the future. I just think I'm like, whew, I don't feel like the urge to do that again with another literary project. I am working on another novella that, I don't know, it might be a short story, it might be a novella, it's probably gonna be a novella called Lost Gods, but I don't feel a drive to like wake up every morning and go to the library and work on it for 3 hours and come back home and then work on it more. I don't feel that drive to do that. So I'm taking this as a cue to like, let's shift what I'm writing, because I have lots of special interest projects, which are my priority. They're my favorite thing to write. So with that said, I'm going to open up Changing States right now. Hi, Jeremiah, it's open. And I completely forgot the name of one of the characters that Jeremiah ends up meeting. It's like it ends up going really, really poorly, but I don't remember what his name was. So now I need to find it in my document because I need to type it up. And I have no idea what his name was. I thought it might have been an M name. I don't even remember. I found his name. The guy who sucks, his name is Casey. I did write a lot of Changing States by hand, and it's kind of been a thing, like in terms of like the emotional arc of a project. I find myself oftentimes being drawn to starting a project and finishing a project. I found myself drawn to finishing projects similarly to how I started them, trying to get back to that like baby moment, like the grain of rice moment that I didn't know was going to sort of blow up into this sort of bigger project. And with Changing States, I did start out writing quite a bit of it by hand because at the time I was on vacation. And so when my family was going on drives, I would bring my notebook with me. And that was just like, I'm not going to lug around my computer when I'm in the car. And then I would be at like the lake shore. We were visiting Lake Erie writing Changing States. So I have like very positive memories writing by hand with Changing States. I don't typically love writing by hand. It is my goal this year to write more by hand intentionally rather than just out of necessity, just because I want to see what it can do for my process. Something that I've noticed is I cannot stand my own handwriting. I don't think that my handwriting is ugly and that it's like completely difficult to read, but the problem is it's not like it's easy for me to read when I write quickly, and my brain works really fast and I like to write things out quickly, so then my handwriting reflects sort of the efficiency. And so I'm not loving that part of the process, but it is something new that I'm trying, like I said, to do a little bit more often. So I'm gonna just take a little bit of time to stitch these parts of the book because I have some like sort of random parts in the document. I just need to go in and weave it together, and I'm really excited about this ending. Jeremiah is at the club because it's Halloween and it's his birthday. He has a Halloween birthday and really not much is gonna happen there. I don't want a lot to happen. I don't know what I was thinking like a couple months ago in terms of like, yeah, I think there's going to be quite a bit more left in this book, because I don't actually think so. I thought this would be longer than Body Back, and perhaps it will be longer than Body Back, but I'm going to check the word count. Body Back was 28,000 words. This one's 27,000. So I think this one might be just about the same length as Body Back. I don't love taking long breaks from stories. I find that it kind of makes me anxious, but also I'm like, if it makes me anxious, it's probably something I should do more. But yeah, it's just kind of a chill scene. He's just thinking about a character who sort of helped him out of this terrible situation that happened a couple of pages ago. So I'm going to transcribe what I wrote and I will be back. So I have a bowl of cherries. I also have rooibos maple tea, which I don't really drink rooibos tea. So it kind of like, it smells kind of strange to me, but not in a bad way, it's just like different. So I finished my book. It was really like an anticlimactic end, but not in a bad way. So a couple nights ago, I have no idea when I even finished it. It might have been 3 days ago. I don't know. I just had a pull to write it. Finishing Changing States has caused me a lot of anxiety. I have been struggling with a lot of anxiety over the last couple of months in general, since maybe about like November. An increase in anxiety because my life plans have changed quite significantly, and because of that change, finishing Changing States has been a little bit scary for me. It's a project that I was hoping to have finished in 2023. I was hoping to have finished it like in the summer of 2023. And it took longer for me to finish it than I wanted to. It took like, I don't know, 5 months. Whereas the other novellas I wrote, the longest it took me to write one around a similar length was 4 months. And that was like, I moved in between that. And nothing really major happened to me while I was writing Changing States. But during the process, I realized I just had to kind of give myself the permission to just take it easy. Like, nobody was rushing me, but I felt a lot of anxiety about it because I have other projects that I know I need to work on, and I hadn't really been finishing, and I'd been spending a lot of time on Changing States, which is great. It's a beautiful project. I love it, but I have this tendency to avoid finishing projects even when I'm very anxious and feel like I really want to finish them to quell the anxiety. I don't know. It's an avoidance thing, I guess. And so I avoid finishing the book. So a couple nights ago, I just kind of finally like mustered the bravery to finish the book. And I think I wrote 2,000 words in one go. I'm not really checking word counts right now. I turned off my word count in my Word. I did check the final word count of the book. I think is nearly at 30,000 words. It's like 29,500 words. Thinking back on it now, I really don't actually know what the ending of Changing States looks like. I don't really remember it. And that's not a bad thing. I think a part of me kind of wants to come back to the project when it feels sort of beautiful again. And it's not that it doesn't feel beautiful at all, because Jeremiah, who is the narrator, it's impossible for him to not be beautiful. But I kind of want to read it again when I think I'm feeling more internally beautiful. I don't know, not physically beautiful. I think I look stunning with these pimple patches on my face, but like kind of internally, emotionally, sort of more beautiful. I know it'll be an experience, and I kind of want to save it. While the ending was kind of anticlimactic, I'm just happy that it's done. So with that said, we are now into a new era where I need to figure out what the hell I'm writing, because I don't really know. I haven't really been focused on writing that much, even though not focusing on writing scares me, and I want to be more like upfront about struggling, because I watched Chris's recent writing vlog, which I will link in the description. You should all watch it. It was so beautifully edited, and the story was like so emotional, like that she managed to create like with the editing, and she tells you about what her amazing book that I had the pleasure of reading is about. So make sure you check it out, because Chris is so underrated. I'm like, hello, like authortube. You need to pay more attention to Chris's channel. But she was so vulnerable, I think, in the vlog. It made me feel so good, because she was talking a lot about like sort of anxiety and like publishing and everything, and that made me feel a lot better. I have been harboring like real deep anxiety that I have been avoiding about sort of my future publishing career for over a year now, and I haven't really confronted it because I have been avoiding it, and sometimes avoiding is the only thing you can do in a moment. It's like sort of like a survival skill. Right as the anxiety happened, I was at school, I was having a stressful semester, so I couldn't really focus on the anxiety. My sort of idea of dealing with it was just ignoring it, like kind of pushing it to the back of my head. When the new year started, also was pretty rocky. Like, I was going through a lot personally, I was graduating, so I was quite stressed, and I didn't really want to deal with the anxiety. And so in the summer, it was sort of time for me to relax now, because I'd just come off all of that stress in 2023, and now we're at a point where we're in the new year, and I'm like, okay, I think it's time to start dealing with the things that are absolutely terrifying me and kind of ruining my life just a little bit. I'm not kidding you. I have had my sleep like impacted by like writing, and just sort of like the anxiety of like, I need to write a book that I'll publish one day, you know, like it sounds so crazy, because I have been writing for 10 years now. And it's crazy because I feel really confident about my writing abilities, and then I will have like really intense anxiety about never being able to write something that is like a good book. Like, and it's not really like a self-deprecation that I've felt before. It's not an insecurity in that I think my writing is bad. It just feels like a fact that it'll be really hard for me like to write something, like impossible almost, that could be published and enjoyed by other people. And it's not because like I think my writing is bad, because I don't. I think my writing is great. Like my writing is some of my favorite stuff that I read, but for some reason I still have the anxiety. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So now I'm getting to a point where I am slowly going to start confronting this major fear of mine. Hey guys, it's Editing Rachel, currently in April. I wanted to come on here to do a quick outro for this writing vlog. It was really interesting editing this, you know, like 3 months later, trying to see where my head was at, especially finishing Changing States. And it's also interesting talking about, you know, grieving Jeremiah and not being able to write with him again when I actually do have another Jeremiah project in the works. So I just think it's kind of cool how over time your writing can change, and I'm really happy that I had this on film. So let me know what you guys are working on in the comments below, but for now I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.